Hi, it's Stephen here at Class Act, and I wanted to show you a really new and exciting product that works with the Tim Holtz Bird Crazy rubber stamp set, which have been very popular, but flying off the shelves, pardon the pun. So I want to show you that he's come out with a die set for cutting these little creatures out, and this is great because this brings up all kinds of other possibilities. No longer do you have to do fussy cutting, especially around the tops of their heads where you've got these finer pieces and their tail feathers and their little feet. So in this set of dies you get 18 dies. You get a body die for each one of the birds, that's 6, and then you get a die that cuts out the eyes and the beak and cuts out the feather in each case. And so what you can do with that is if you stamp a couple of the same bird, you can use the body one to cut out the body, which is what has happened here, and you can use the eye and beak and the wing one to cut those pieces out from the second image, and then you just use your pop dots and you pop up these for a three-dimensional effect. Now, I was just going to show you how to do this. It is a little tricky, but not that hard once you've done it a few times. What I'm using is my magnetic platform. You don't have to have a magnetic platform. You could have a magnetic sheet, or you could just do it without the magnetic part of it, although I find that that makes it a little easier for lining up the dies. Put down your first acrylic plate and then put down your colored in birds, and I have a couple of the little guys right here. Then you take the dies, and these are the body dies for these two birds. As I said, there's one for each bird, and you lay it down and line it up. Now the first few times you do this you might not get it quite right, so color a lot of birds, or do what I do. I color one set of birds, then I run them through my printer on the photocopy setting and print them out on my cardstock. So I never have to color them again. I have them all ready to go. So you line that one up and put the second bird on. And it is kind of a trial and error so that you minimize the white that will be cut around them. It does cut a little bit of a white border, but after you've done it a few times you can pretty much get it. Okay, so I've got them all laid up there, and you notice with the magnetic platform that made things very easy because they're going to stay there. So I'm going to take my top acrylic and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. So I'll be right back. You'll hear the machine in the background running. I'm using the Vagabond, but the Big Shot works as well, and probably the Cuttlebug. I like to run it through twice, forward and backwards. And now we can pop these little guys out. So they come right off, and then you just take your finger, and I have found that the little feet down here, I just use a paper piercer and give it a little poke. There's holes here to release the feet. And there we go. Now this one I got a little off center, so I've got a little bit of a white border, and that's what I mean. You have to play with it to get it perfect. See how well I did with this guy. And there, he came out pretty good too. And as I said, you can turn around and cut out their eyes and beak and feathers and make it, with your pop dots, three-dimensional. You could also do several layers of these birds using your pop dots to give it a little bit of dimension too. Just one body on top of the other body kind of a thing, and it will give you that dimension. There's lots of possibilities here. But here's one more that I want to show you. So let's move my birds out of the way. We have a product in the store that's called inkjet shrink plastic. All right, this is very cool because this will fit into your printer and you can print on it. So you remember I just said that I cheat with my birds and I colored them all first on a piece of cardstock, stamped them, colorized them, and then I ran them through my photocopy part of my inkjet printer. Well, this goes in, so I made a copy right on top of the inkjet film. And then you just take a pair of scissors, cut out the bird you want, lay it down on the platform, and I'll just show you here. This is my sheet that I did them on. I've cut out a couple of the birds here, but you see it's just like paper. And do what I just did a few minutes ago and line them up with the die and cut them out. But here's the fun part. You can make them with the shrink plastic into little charms. Isn't that cool? And I'll show you very quickly how this, if you've never seen this shrink plastic before, I'll show you how it works. So I've already cut out my bird from the shrink plastic, and if you just give me a second here, I'm going to grab my glass plate, because I have found with my heat gun, if I put it onto my self-healing cutting mat, it warps it, and you can't see it here, but I have a lot of warps in this already. You'll also notice on this bird in the shrink plastic, before I shrink it down, I put a hole in it. It looks like a pretty big hole, but and that's about a 1/4 inch hole. The reason for that is if I want to attach a slip ring to this to make it into a charm or a key holder or whatever, I need to punch the hole first, because when it gets reduced to this size, to about 20% of its size, that hole does shrink, but this stuff is really hard. You cannot punch a hole in it after you've shrunk it down. So pre-punch your hole before you shrink it. And so all you do is take your heat gun. This is going to be a little noisy. And don't get worried, this is all going to curl up on itself. It will uncurl as you heat it. Also have close by a little acrylic block, and I'll show you why in a second. So just to hold it steady, I just use my paper piercer and put it through the hole just to keep it from moving around, and heat it up. Take it off, and that's what the block is for, just to press them down, keep them flat for a few seconds. And that's all there is to it. It's kind of fun to do it. Let me see them. So there's another use for these dies. You can make a whole bunch of these. You could use these and attach them to cards. You could put them on gifts. Carol even suggested that you might want to make them into those little ring things that you put around wine glasses so everybody knows whose wine they're drinking out of if it's not their own. So that's the Tim Holtz Bird Crazy dies. We sell these for about $38.99, 18 pieces, well worth the price. And the other product I'm showing you is the shrink plastic, the shrink desk inkjet plastic. So come on in. I'll have some of these maybe at the store so you can have a closer look at them, and have a lot of fun with this kind of product. Okay, until next time, bye-bye.